every day I'm changing, I'm taking small steps, and every time I'm falling, I go to new depths. I will become who I've always been.
Let me ask you something. What happens when you've built the business, you've hit the milestones, and done all the right things, and yet you wake up one day and realize success doesn't feel like success anymore? That's what today's episode is about. It's about the moment your soul outgrows your strategy, the moment you stop chasing someone else's definition of enough. Hi there. I'm Deb Hartnett, master coach and guide for founders who refuse to settle. And today you're about to hear the raw, unfiltered truth from Nicole Spencer. She's a powerhouse entrepreneur who built a multi-seven-figure coaching business and then walked away. She walked away to reclaim her joy, energy, and a life on her terms. And if you've ever wondered, can I burn it down and still rise? Or am I allowed to evolve? This episode will change you. Buckle up, my friend. This is the one you've been waiting for.
Hello, Nicole. Hello, Deborah. It's so good to see you again. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. So I'm just going to introduce you formally, okay? And then I'll gush over you after that, okay? Okay, perfect. Today's guest is someone that I really admire, and I know you're going to fall in love with her, honestly. Her brilliance and her deep sense of alignment. Nicole Spencer is the founder and former CEO of Authentic Conversions, where she helped over 1,500, not just health and fitness coaches, but people like me. Yes, she was my coach when I first started my business, to grow wildly and successful online businesses without using paid ads. So she built and scaled a multiple seven-figure company with heart, purpose, and integrity. And then one of the boldest moves of all, she sold it. She sold an online coaching business. So now Nicole is in a new season. She's on a sabbatical, one of pause, reflection. So I would say it's something like a sacred exhale. So this conversation isn't just about business success, though she's definitely had plenty of it. It's about the real journey, what it takes to grow something meaningful and let it go when it's time, and trust yourself, and then reclaim your energy, your identity, and joy on the other side. So buckle up for a conversation that's real, resonant, and full of wisdom. So let's dive in to Nicole Spencer.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. So that's how I'd like to start. 2.5 years ago, I guess it was really the end of when did I start my business? 2023. I've been coaching for 21 years, 22 years, but starting my own business, I knew I wanted to eventually grow online, which, by the way, Nicole, I still haven't done. Because I'm trusting my time.
The resources.
But yeah, I've been just trusting my timing. But I was looking for a coach that not just was going to show me the things, but also, again, I felt was really resonant with me and my purpose and who I am. And so I wanted someone, honestly, that was super real. And so it took me a while, but I found you in your program, and you had some amazing coaches that worked with you. And I don't regret it for a minute. It was incredibly valuable. I am using all the things to design my thing. And that is how I found Nicole. I was looking for a coach, just like many people are. And I trusted myself, and I definitely don't regret it. And then here you are.
Here we are, years later, but time goes so fast.
I know. And you have had an incredible journey. And so I would love for you maybe just to start and give, people listening a little bit of a background. I said a little bit more from your perspective about that journey of how you started Authentic Conversions, whatever you want to say about that.
Well, I'll give you the shortest version possible. And I think this will resonate with your audience because, like most entrepreneurs, that was not a straight shot for me. I actually went to school to be a teacher. I taught high school English for 2.5 years, and I knew on day one of my student teaching that was not going to be my life. And so I did that. I went to graduate school, got a pretty obscure master's degree, and ended up meeting my now amazing ex-husband while I was in graduate school, and his job brought us to New York City. And so I found myself living in New York City. I was in my mid to late 20s at this time. And I had a dream of working for the United Nations. Didn't work. It didn't work out. However, that was the best thing because I'd been a dancer and a performer and really into fitness my whole life. And so I was waiting tables at a restaurant. I'm like, I guess at that point I was like maybe 27 years old and thinking, gosh, I have all this education. I am waiting tables again. I'm getting closer to 30. What am I doing with my life? And just out of coincidence, a guy standing next to me said he had just gotten his personal training certification. And I thought, oh, I could probably do that. And then I did. And then I really quickly got involved in the health and fitness world, got a lot of advanced certifications. I ended up managing a luxury health club, the personal training department of one in New York. Then we ended up moving to Southeast Georgia to a tiny town where I didn't know anyone, and there were no opportunities there. So I had to create my own, which is when I opened a fitness studio. And I ended up building that to six figures within about the first 4 or 5 months, which was pretty crazy in this
Wow.
town. And that business after 3 years. And then he and I split up. I moved back to my hometown of Asheville, North Carolina, where I'm coming at you from today. And actually, for about 3.5 years before I started Authentic Conversion, I had been, even before that, I'd been a client because I've always believed in having coaches and mentorship and things like that, basically, since I knew it existed. And then, so I was a client of a company that helped gym owners build their businesses. And even before I sold my gym, they hired me to do some kind of contract coaching for them. After I sold, I went full time with them and I worked for them for 3.5 years, helping their clients all over the world. They sent me to Australia and the UK and all over the US and Canada to teach workshops and help gym owners. And so I had that under my belt, but like many jobs, it was amazing. I'm super grateful for it. And it was great until it wasn't. And probably like a lot of entrepreneurs, it took me about a year and a half longer than I had wanted to actually have the courage to leave, right? And it wasn't like I was making all this money and it was hard to walk away from that. It was just, I was single, I had built a house, I had a mortgage, and I didn't want to go back to traditional work life. Like there's just,
Yeah.
I felt like I got myself into a position where I'm so specialized in this thing that has no local location that you could just go work for. So it felt very risky to me. But there came a point where there wasn't another option. So I broke away. I spent about 3 or 4 months just really creating content and nurturing the connections I had on Facebook at that time. And then I launched my company a couple months later, and it really just took off from there. I owned and ran for 6 to 7 years, and now it's 2025 and it is in the past, and I'm still in a partnership with the people who bought me out, but in a different capacity. But yeah, I'm super grateful for every step of the journey and never thought I'd be able to retire if I choose in my early 40s, but that's what we're doing for now.
It just blows my mind, Nicole. And you announced that in December, didn't you?
Yeah, we had made a lot of changes and transitions before that, but we didn't publicly announce anything.
Yeah.
Team and everything new in the background. I think our clients who were working with us at the time they knew about our partners and things like that. But yes, I announced the full transition out right at the beginning of December 2020.
Yeah. And I had done your program already the year previously, but of course I still followed you. And I was just blown away. I was like, this woman sold an online coaching business.
And it's funny because I'm sure we'll get into this, but so I've sold 2 coaching businesses now, and I just recently went through the process of becoming a certified exit planning advisor for kind of future things that I make. And according to all of their criteria, and I already knew this, but it like really spelled it out for me. I should have never been able to sell either of my businesses.
Ow.
Yeah. So that's
Okay. It's fair to say we'll probably be all over the place. But so why don't you say a little bit about that? Because when I work with clients, I always have them set their businesses up in the best way possible to be sold. whether they ever think they want to or not, I say you might as well have a business that runs the way it needs to run in order for it to be sellable.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
No, I was gonna say, I think like the biggest thing was that both of them were started as a personal brand. And of course, I brought in team and all of that other stuff. But I think part of the thing is that online businesses in general, not even just coaching, but it's so far out of the traditional business model. And online businesses have only been a thing. Some, I guess, have been around a little bit longer, but like the last 10 to 15 years, as I'm like looking at all of the examples through this company and the certification process and just all the boxes that need to be checked, the new business model doesn't really fit into that in a lot of ways in terms of, again, what buyers are typically looking for. Fortunately, the people that I initially partnered with and then eventually handed everything off to, they had a lot of experience in that realm. They own other coaching businesses. So it wasn't something that had great numbers on paper, but they didn't understand what it really was. They came into this with a really deep understanding of what this business was, what I was doing, and how they could take it to the next level. But when I started my gym, I started that very much with the end in mind. I knew that so my ex-husband was a federal agent and his job was going to require us to move every 3 to 5 years. And I thought, okay, I've got to get this started and I've got to be able to run it remotely in 3 to 5 years. And then I really realized as I was deeper and deeper into the process, I don't want to have a remote, like a business that's on the other side of the country or something like that. I knew I was going to have to sell it. And so that one was very much thought of, okay, start with the end in mind. And I didn't necessarily think of authentic conversion that way. Part of the reason for launching that business was, number one, I saw a real need in the market for deeper connection and building trust. And no one was really teaching content creation at the time. And there were all these gaps in the market. And I felt a really authentic way to teach people how to do business. So that was a big part of it. And also, I was in a position where I was like, okay, I really need to replace my paychecks. I need to get my income back to this level where I was really comfortable previously. And it was more of, okay, I just got to get this going first. So I didn't necessarily start that with the end in mind. However, one of the things that they really talk a lot about in this certification process that I went through is that we have a 50% chance of having to get out of our business, like basically ASAP, in a way that's out of our control. They call it, you have a 50% chance of one of the 5 Ds happening to you. And those Ds are divorce, disability, death, disagreement, or distress. Statistically, there is a very good chance that one of those things is going to come at you. And really the whole thing that I learned, the way that they articulate it, is that exit planning is just part of your regular business strategy, right? Because every single person who has a business will exit their business, whether by choice,
one way or another.
Yeah. Whether by choice or by force. Why not really think about building a business where you don't just shut it down and walk away from everything you put into it, and you don't have a 401k and you don't have a pension or any of those things.
Exactly.
But why not be able to walk away with, really, you can 5 to 10 times on average increase your personal wealth, leave a legacy, right? I didn't shut all my programs down. I didn't get rid of all of that IP I created over the years, and all that value I created is still there. It's still for sale, but you can increase your wealth by 5 to 10 times, usually by selling your business, right? If it's prepped to sell. So I just think it's one of those things where you're gonna exit. Do you want to do it with nothing, or do you want to do it with a payout, impact, and legacy that really exists beyond you?
That was so well said.
Thank you. And I know that this is just a new thing, and I'm going to read something in a minute. Totally moved me about, again, just so indicative of who you are and your character. But I'm first in line, first of all, to hopefully have you come and be exposed to my clients and anything I can do, because you just have so much wisdom, not just in business, just as a human being.
Did you know one single breath has the power to ground your energy, calm your nervous system, and bring you fully into the present moment? How about we take a breath together? Ready? If this conversation is stirring something inside of you, Imagine the confidence, momentum, and peace of mind that come when everything you do moves you closer to the life and business you actually want. Then working privately with me could be your next move. I partner with 20 founders each year through a joint interview process where we explore working together and see if it's the right fit. And as of recording this podcast in May, I have 5 spots remaining in 2025. So if that speaks to you, go to inspired-bp.com and book a strategy session with me, and we'll look at your business and life together and determine your next steps and whether we're a good match to work together. Now, let's get back to this beautiful conversation.
And I really want to share this post with the listeners because I think they'll really get a sense of your spirit, your soul, and also what it looks like when you are really aligned, in tune with your inner purpose, your true purpose. And that's something I've always experienced about you, Nicole. Reflecting that on you, but that you are someone that had that inner wisdom. We all have the inner wisdom. It's whether or not we can listen to it, we can hear it. So I just want to read this Facebook post that you wrote not too long ago. There's a lie that I used to believe that bigger and more are better, that enough is never enough, even if we know within it's enough for us. I believe more than anything in shooting for the stars, stretching ourselves, expanding our capacity to new levels. I believe in our potential for growth as humans, and I think it's so important to tap into. But my sabbatical has taught me where the line is. The line between more and enough. The line between growth and rest. The line between working for it and receiving, the line between who I've been and who I want to be. The spaces I want to go now are more deeply connected and intimate, not broader and wide reaching. I never want to be a contributor to the noise. I love that line. I don't want to post in ways that talk down and judge others. I want to use my platform as a space to share my public journey about my journey from running a multi-7-figure business to coming home and rediscovering all parts of myself. It's a peaceful place. It's not one without turmoil, but it does have me feeling more abundant and resilient than ever before. I'm learning, growing, and expanding every day. For now, it's for me. One day, it'll be for others again. And I don't really have any idea what that looks like right now. And I love having zero pressure to figure it out. When I'm ready, the lessons I share will be powerful, no doubt. But for now, I can drift, reflect, and dream as I wish. It's a place I'm so grateful to be. I mean,
Thank you.
makes me want to cry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that means so much.
And that space, Nicole, I would love for you to just share anything else that came up for you when I read that you would want to share. Again, knowing that the people listening are committed to listening to that inner voice, being led by their purpose, not getting enticed or seduced by hustle and do more, be more, if it's not in alignment with what they truly want, the kind of life they want to live.
I'll say when I first found my business partners and was like putting all of this out there, none of it made any sense on paper. Actually, I had just had at the time what was my biggest month ever in my business. Just the previous month, I was making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, profiting more than 50%. And that is a kind of money that I never would have thought I would ever have access to. I was a teacher. My salary was like $1,735 a month after taxes and insurance and my paychecks for full-time teaching. And I never dreamed of really doing that. And it was just one of these things where it was just a step-by-step process of
not only seeing what was possible, but really one of the problems I really have, and I think you've alluded to it too, that I have with the online space right now, especially the business coaching world, is that it's just so full of lies. It's so full of made up numbers. It's so
Yeah.
full of people who will tell you anything in order to get you to pay them. And then there's no value there. And I really just hate that, because when I first got into business coaching in 2014 with the company that I worked for, and even when I launched Authentic Conversion in 2018, like there was no one doing it. You didn't see anyone teaching people how to build businesses. Now there is so much noise. And anyway, so that's a bit of a tangent, but on paper, it didn't make sense for me to start to explore that option. But I think I didn't have a consciousness about it at first. But what really, especially I talked about this when I made our public announcement in December, is I really felt like I was a bit lost in my business, and not in a bad way, but I'm a person who has chosen to be unmarried, who has chosen to not have a family other than my animals very intentionally. That is the life that I want. I love traveling. I love seeing the world. I love having my autonomy. I have lots of close relationships and friendships in my life, but I think my desires in life are a bit untraditional. And so I really felt I was married to my business, and I loved that. And I wanted to be in that relationship for a long time. And then I realized that I had no idea who I was outside of that. Like I knew things that I was interested in and things like that. But in terms of my social capacity and my bandwidth and my energy and things like that, it was 100% given to my company. And I'm grateful that I did that. And I'm so grateful that I had that season. And it started very unconsciously at first, and then became really like the forefront of this big question in my mind, which was like, who am I without all of this? And I was able to do such amazing things. I was able to be very generous. I was very involved in a charity in Sierra Leone that helped blood diamond victims. I donated a lot. I went there. I actually helped people on the ground. And I got to do all of these really cool things through the vehicle of my business, meet amazing people, help people all over the world build their businesses and have that impact. As I started actually doing more and more of this like spiritual work and spiritual journey and mentorship in that regard, as my beliefs that I never really paid attention to before started to formulate in our souls and how we're on these journeys to learn these lessons, I realized if I'm all caught up in this all of the time, I can't figure out like what's actually here. And so that really became the unconscious driving force that I didn't even really realize until I was like on the other side of it. I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah.
I don't even remember what the question was.
Read the post and then I'm like, I don't
Yeah, that's, I guess, because I'm always, no, I can't say I'm always listening there. For most of the time, I'm listening from purpose. I'm listening for people's purpose, for it to arise in their speaking, or look at it and how they're living their lives. And I always felt that about you, at least the authenticity piece, right? At the core of who you are, you're just a good human being. And you can't, from this post, it's like, there'll be some for you too. It's a service. It's a service heart, a servant's heart. You're a teacher, right? A servant's heart.
Very much a teacher. Like I would consider myself always more of a teacher than a coach or a mentor or anything like that. That is very much my love and my style. And I think my gift as well. That's saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've been on a spiritual journey. So if this is too, you let me know, but can you say anything about that?
I've done a lot of work like in that realm, using all different types of modalities, reading a lot, going on a lot of my own journeys. And I've had a mentor in that realm that I've been working with very consistently since 2021. And her name's Romy Weiser. She's like the most sweet, amazing soul. And she just has taught me a lot, and she looks at me and my journey, and it's just been really amazing. In fact, I was listening to a message from her just before I jumped on this call. And then, of course, like it's been interesting, right? Because when you put an intention out there, you start to attract and draw more people into your life. I actually have one of my very closest friends is coming to town to stay with me for the weekend tomorrow. And she's one of those people who's been so impactful on my own spiritual journey. And it's just like these people I think pop up in your life at the right times. And then friends that I've had since even before that have gone into their own evolution on that quest as well. And yeah, it's just one of those things where I look at what I am interested in and drawn toward, because it's such an abstract thing. It's not like I want to learn how to run a webinar and I can follow these 25 steps. It's like just such a personal thing. It's something that I'm very committed to. But what's interesting is I just went through this certification process. And I feel like this is a bit of a lesson that I'm actually just thinking about as I'm saying this, is that it was incredibly intensive. It was like 10 plus hours a day of learning this material and studying for my exam and all that. And I noticed like there was like no attention paid to that part of me where I got off track with my like meditations every day. I just was like, that has to go to the side. And I'm like, okay, just be conscientious of that going forward. Don't sacrifice all the personal stuff for the sake of the business types.
And I think that as a business owner, I don't know if it's all the development that I've done over the last 20 plus years on myself, but my commitment when I started my business, because I'd coached businesses for so long and I saw the business owners just run themselves ragged, miss their kids' events, you name it. When this was before I started Inspired Business Performance. And that was part of my quest to create something where if you didn't want to participate in the hustle culture, you didn't have to. You could really build your business to work for you. And so again, I have nothing against hustle culture in the sense of if that's your choice. I just want people to know there is another way. That doesn't resonate with them. We talked about this before we started recording about how you loved it and you were quite young. I'm 55. Okay. Yeah. And I started my business 2 years ago. So I don't want to hustle. Plain and simple. There we go. And I want to make a great living and make a difference. And I could die happy today because I've already done it. So it's now about giving it away, keep giving it away. So I'm curious, maybe speak to that a little bit about just like being in that world, right? Of hustle. And what sort of had you go, maybe I don't want to live this way anymore?
Yeah, I do feel like so much of it was honestly subconsciously guided. And I can look back on that whole journey for even a couple of years and see how everything worked out with the right people and the exact right order and the exact right timing. And yeah, there was definitely a lot of just, I don't know, things at force that made the flow what it was and where I've landed for a long time. It is all just so exciting for me. I look at my Facebook memories every day, and this year it's particularly interesting because it's the first year I'm not like posting business content every day and everything. And so I can see that track for myself for the past like 7 or 8 years. And 3 years ago today, I like shared on my stories, I was at a coffee shop and I like built out this whole webinar. And I remember like that one and different things that I created, whether it was entire programs or marketing ideas or whatever, I would just get these like downloads that would just pour into me. And I would be so excited to go create from it and to create this webinar, the one I'm thinking of, that turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars, all these clients, like all this impact. And it was really exciting for me. And it was my focus of everything. And again, I don't have the kids' activities to run to and all of that stuff. It was really fun. And I remember so many Sunday nights going to a coffee shop or like to a brewery or something around here and just like building and writing and creating and writing my weekly emails and just loving all of that. And that being the thing that was so meaningful to me and so fulfilling. And in terms of making the shift and having the desire to slow down, it's really hard. Like I can't quite pinpoint it. And I don't think I realized how enjoyable it would all be until I was like already in it. And there were certainly moments when I was making these decisions to sign things over, to step back and like all of that, where I really questioned, am I going to regret this? And actually, one of the things that we talked about in my certification is that statistically about 75% of business owners regret selling their business within the first 12 months.
Really?
Yeah. And the number one reason for that is because they don't have an after business life plan for themselves. And I didn't either. And I'm like, it's so funny. I'm like the anomaly in all of their statistics and everything. And a lot of the examples they give, these people have tens of millions of dollars in their bank account. So like way, way more than me. But they feel purposeless. And the thing that gave them the adrenaline and the excitement in their business, they're like looking to replace in different ways. And I just don't feel that way at all. I feel like I just trusted where I was being guided. And I didn't know how it was going to feel when I landed, but it's so much better. And I think I certainly want to be purposeful. I don't want to just like retire and not work forever. I want to help people. I want to share all of this these wisdoms and lessons and things like that I've learned. However, if you told me, okay, like where you're at today is what it's going to be like forever, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. I like my life how it is. And I don't think not having a clear plan for everything I was going to do next in a step-by-step order was a bad thing. I actually think I just need the clear and open space for what is at this moment an indefinite period of time.
That's such a heightened place to be, is to allow yourself to actually be in the unknown. Because what you basically said, and this is 100%, it's the way the brain is wired. It's human nature. What do they say statistically when people retire, older people retire, if they don't have some kind of future that they're looking forward to, they die quite quickly. Afterwards, I don't have the statistic in front of me, but
I read if you aren't focused on purpose, people typically live like 7.5 years less.
yes. And then you see these people who are in their 90s, and not necessarily because you're living a purposeful life that you're going to live till 100 or whatever, but you see so many people, the people who do live that long are invigorated by life.
And they're fulfilled. Yeah.
They're totally fulfilled. And that does not come externally. That starts as an inside job. I can't find my questions. I think what I would love to hear from you, me and the people listening, is now do you see purpose? Because you said you were at least consciously led, right, by like a big purpose, at least
like for the transition out.
Before the transit, when you started your online business, the coaching business. So I'm curious now, is that something that's in the forefront for you? Is it something you've articulated who you really are, your core values? I'm just curious because you do, in at least how I observe it, live authentically. And that's really what authenticity is, when you're being true to yourself.
Yeah, I would say 100%. I think I always have been. And I think that circumstances or things that people have said about me or whatever are these kind of like little tests that we get to challenge that or to make us more aware. I felt, I think, very clear in my direction when I was starting Authentic Conversion. I knew who I wanted to help, why I was doing it. I understood why I was uniquely gifted to be able to do those things. I think now, as I think about where I want to go in the future, I think I have, and my beliefs are, of course, still developing. And when you're talking about like your soul's purpose and journey and things like that, I think it's very intangible. And obviously there's no evidence of any of it. But as I further develop my beliefs, I'm not just looking at my human self. I'm looking at my entire journey, what I believe is your soul's journey and what we're here to do and what we're here to learn. And it's not superficial and it's not the things that we think it is. I think I'm committed to definitely staying more clear and more moved by that track than perhaps the 3D like physical track that I'm on. But I also think that I am a creator and an innovator and a teacher. And one of the things that really excited me as I was going through this certification process to do this exit planning in the future is that, as I was saying, a lot of it, the conversation was really around the old way of doing business and manufacturing businesses and distribution centers and companies doing $50, $100 million and like how you increase the valuation and prepare to sell and all of those things. And to me, that's great, but that's not for me. I don't have that desire. But where I really see I can help people, and it almost feels like when I conceptualized Authentic Conversion again, is in adapting methodologies that exist for traditional business models to the new business model, right?
Yeah.
And educating people on what and why and how to do all of these things, because the conversation is incredibly robust. And to be fair, I was like in this program with all these CPAs and wealth managers and like financial planners. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my background's so different. I don't speak this language at all. So actually the first day I was like super discouraged. I was like, I don't belong here. I'm excited about the idea, but I feel like way out of my league here. And then by the second day, it was so funny. It's like all these downloads came. I was walking my dog and I was like listening to an audiobook version of some of the trainings we had. And I was just like taking notes after notes. I'm like, that's where I come into this, is adapting this methodology, which is amazing and it's super solid and it just makes perfect sense, to the new model. And I think a big part of my role is not just, okay, here's your business valuation, but is being the educator for business owners.
Wow. I cannot wait to see what you create. I get how valuable that is. I have coached some online businesses. Most of my businesses are either brick and mortar or more of the traditional service-based business. And I I'm fascinated, and I know whatever you create is rock solid. But one of the things that I just heard in what you said is, how you keep receiving these downloads, and that takes trust, right? That takes being connected and believing in what's being transmitted into you. And then it takes something to actually make it happen too.
Totally. And one thing I'm really guilty of with that is like using evidence against myself, right? So we'll get all these great downloads, and a lot of the time, like they work out and they turn into this amazing thing. And then sometimes they don't. And there was one thing I created a couple of years ago that I was like, this is going to be it. This is like the future of where I'm headed. And I launched it, and I was not unhappy with how the launch went. But once I got into the process, I was like, oh, this isn't actually like smart for my business model. I won't go into any details. But I'm like, this could be a really great thing and a great plan, but not with the way that it's set up. And everything else was going so well. I was like, I just can't even focus on this right now. I really judged that for a while, and I held on to it where I was like, I thought this is like, how do I even trust myself when everything in me was saying, this is your next big thing? And then it wasn't, right? But then I'm like, but I chose for it not to be. Like, I didn't pursue it further, and I didn't have the bandwidth and all of those things. But still, it's when you get 100 pieces of feedback and one of them's negative, everyone always hears the one negative versus the 99 positive. I can certainly do that as well when it comes to the downloads and the intuitive hits and things like that, if that helps anyone, because I think we all probably have a bit of a tendency to do that. But yeah, if I think about everything from the things that I've created to the timing of the execution to the people that I've met, there's just so much unexplainable like guidance that happened through those processes for sure.
Yeah. Again, I speak a lot about purpose, a lot about alignment. Can you articulate at all? And this I don't think was on the list of questions. Fine. Can you like articulate your purpose or part of your core values, or just anything, that you've articulated in the past around that?
Yeah, I would say like personal number one core value is integrity. And that is everything, right? And the way I describe that is you do what you say you're going to do, and you're the same person, in your private life that you are in your public life. I had the worst experience a couple of years ago. I paid the most money I'd ever paid for a business coach. It was the worst experience I've ever had, including $25,000 for a VIP weekend. And she was a completely different person. She was like very boasty online and just in your face, and in person, she had to have like her best friend sit with her because she was so uncomfortable being in like a one-on-one with someone she hadn't met before. It was just like the weirdest thing. And I think that there's so much that's more probably like an extreme example, but there's just so much fakeness online more than ever before. And it's just exhausting. And I never, like I said in my post, I never want to feel like part of the noise. And I think that how we communicate our values. So for me, like I said, integrity is number one. Obviously, it's a little bit kind of corny to say because my business was authentic conversion, but that authenticity, kindness is so important to me. Generosity and openness and like willingness to learn. All of those things are things that I value so much. And I think that if you're saying something and you're not living it, people can certainly tell that. Yeah. People are so drowned in the noise right now that it may be perhaps more difficult for them than ever before to decipher what's true and what's real and what's not, which makes it even more important for us to be able to hear our own inner voice. Because I know I put my credit card down for that example and many other things through the years, or I think it was just noise. It wasn't what my truth was pulling me toward. So I don't know if
No, it did 100%. And integrity also for me is one of my core values, and my clients get coached ad nauseum on integrity. But my gosh. Okay. So I don't want to let you go, but I know I have to. So I would again, you're just so full of wisdom, and I hope I will have you back.
Oh my gosh. Anytime.
This is so much.
And I adore you. You're so sweet. I appreciate you thinking of me.
So is there anything like that you want to say before we part ways here today. And knowing that anybody I would imagine who's going to tune in is somebody who is probably already on their journey. Maybe they're not yet, but any guidance again also focusing on like their quality of life too, right? Their business and their quality of life.
Yeah, I feel like I'm so different in the way that I approach a lot of this stuff. Like, again, my certification process, it's like, you want to start with your 10-year vision. I'm like, I don't have a 10-year vision, to be perfectly honest. And I used to really be big on that stuff as well. I can personally see like about 1 year out into the future. But one thing I guess I would encourage people to consider is that where you're at today may not be where you're at 6 months from now. It may not be where you're at a year from now, because if someone had asked me when I started my company, if this was forever, I would have said 100% absolutely yes. And that was true until it wasn't. And it was interesting because as I was going through the process of finding my business partners and then the transition and all of that stuff, I was in love with my business. I was in love with my team. I was in love with my clients. I loved all of it. And I wouldn't have just walked away. And I still remember as I was like signing documents, I was crying. I was just like, what am I doing here? I can't believe, like, I gave everything of myself to build this, and now I'm signing it over to someone else. But it was just that inner voice. It was, I don't know, spirit. It was something other than me. And so I would say, accept the fact that you're not going to be where you are or who you are if you're growing a few months or especially a few years down the road. Think about what you want your exit from your business to look like at some point, because it's going to happen when you can start to set yourself up for that. And I would say, really, whether you like write it down and start to create like a library of evidence for yourself or however you do it, but just really maybe listen to and look back on all the different times you've received that intuitive guidance or those downloads or whatever. And did you listen? Did you not? If yes, what was the result? If no, what was the result? Really give yourself some time to learn lessons around yourself and your soul in that way, because we are so guided through these processes. And as business owners, there's so much going on and there's so many distractions. And again, so much noise. It can be really hard to hear what's going on for you. And I do think that's where all the real lessons come from. And that's where the real growth comes from. And I know if I hadn't listened to all of this like unconscious guidance, I would be in a really different position in my life today, really different energy and different future ahead. And I'm grateful to be where I'm at. So I hope that helps.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I know we do have to say goodbye. I, again, cannot thank you enough for saying yes to me. And Nicole, I really want to acknowledge the kind of human being that you are. This again is part of my mission, is for people to be able to hear through the noise. And I think the only way that we have a shot of that is, first, if we're not contributing to it. And second, if we're really in touch with what matters to us, then we could see our way through it. We will be able to hear the other voices that resonate with who we are. And I think maybe that's why we've been able to stay connected. We haven't talked about this. You and I've never met in person.
Yeah.
We've never had a one-to-one conversation, except for when I first went into your program, I think, very briefly. But I always felt connected to you. And I think it's because I'm so deeply connected to who I am. And you, I feel, are in a lot of ways mirroring part of my soul. We're mirrors of each other, right?
Yeah, I believe that 100%.
100%. One of my favorite sayings is, we're all just walking each other home.
I love that. Yeah. And I believe that.
Yes. So thank you for being a part of my journey. I know this isn't the end. Thank you just for the kind of human being you are. And please keep shining that light. I know you will. And making that difference, and enjoy your time and your sabbatical and your life. And I'll be keeping tabs on you. And thank you so much for your time today.
Yes. And congratulations on all of your success and all that
Thank
to
you.
come.
Thanks, Nicole.
My pleasure.
You're here listening for a reason. You're building a business and a life that's meant to feel as good on the inside as it looks on the outside, and you don't have to follow anyone else's version of success. So let me tell you about some of our upcoming episodes. We're going to crack open the hidden cost of success that no one talks about, the pressure, the loneliness, the silent burnout. I'm bringing you a raw and honest conversation with a mental health expert that will challenge everything you thought you had to sacrifice to grow your business. This is the episode every driven entrepreneur needs before they burn out trying to make it. Plus, I'll be dropping shorter solo episodes designed to help you align your energy, your heart, your mind, and business structures so you can lead with more clarity and flow. So if this episode had an impact on you, be sure to follow the show for more growth and alignment. And now is the perfect moment for you to make a difference for someone else. Share this episode with someone you think will resonate with this message. And keep showing up for yourself and aligning your life on purpose. Welcome home. Welcome to the Inspired Entrepreneur.
Every day I'm changing, I'm taking small steps, and every time I'm falling,